Welcome back to Owner Operated. A huge thank you to our subscribers for listening and sharing all of our episodes so far. This week, we're excited to bring you an interview with Diamon, the owner of Paragirls. Paragirls sells trendy sorority paraphernalia to college students so that they can rep in style. To date, they focus on the Divine Nine, or the 9 historically black sororities and fraternities in the U.S. What's pretty amazing about Diamond is that she runs this business while also maintaining a high-level career with a Fortune 100 technology company. So where are you now? You're in Seattle?
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. And now you work full
At my
time. Yeah, full time for a big company, right?
yes.
Got it. But then on the side, do you think of it as your side hustle, or do you think it like is, is first and foremost you're a business owner, and then like how do you think about that?
It's so interesting. So how it started off is definitely as my side hustle. So I worked for another company. I'd been with that company for about 6 years. And I decided that I wanted to kind of completely change what it is that I was doing. So I was doing financial management. I wasn't exactly happy. I began doing research and thinking about getting a master's of science. Didn't have the money to get to get one. Didn't realize how expensive it was. Did a bit more
Sure.
research. I had a friend that was pursuing an MBA. Said you should totally get an MBA if you're going to pay the money. Again, didn't have the money, so I began to rack my brain and think about different ways that I could develop the money to go back to school. I applied for a variety of scholarships, applied for the consortium. It just wasn't going to cut it. A friend of mine, we are part of a sorority. We went to an event that was sorority based. And at that event, members of the organization, they'll have specific days where you wear paraphernalia. And we went there with a certain amount of money just to spend on paraphernalia. We were excited to buy it. It was at the time, it was kind of hard to come by. Went there to buy the paraphernalia. We bought some. We spent all of our money, probably like $500, but we wasn't in love. We weren't in love with the pieces that we bought. And we
Mm-hmm.
can brainstorm and saying like, we can make this so much better. And he was like, yeah, maybe one day. Again, kind of put it to the back of our head. And for me, as I began to think about graduate school more and more, I'm like, what can I do to kind of like get the money so that I can support myself and like go back to school? So she and I kind of bounced around with the idea, decided to go forward and do it full circle. I did it while I was still working. So it was my side hustle. uh, then saved up enough money to quit my job and go back to school. When returning to school, it was my baby, because all I had was school and just that. And I'm appreciative for that time because my partner and I were able to really build the brand and take it to where it is right now. Right now, while I'm at work and I have a job that I completely and totally love, I would say I don't like side hustle because it sounds so minute as if it's not important to me. It's equally as important, but it doesn't require as much work because it's a well-oiled machine and pretty much runs itself at this point in time. So, um, with that being said, I guess you could say it's a side hustle because it doesn't require as much.
Yeah, well, and also I think the term side hustle implied something that's like small, and to my understanding, right, I don't think it's so small anymore. So why? So
Well,
let's talk about that a little bit. So you're the founder and owner with a partner of a company called Paragirls.
mhm.
So tell us what is Paragirls, and how did how did it come to be?
So Paragon, so I'm a co-owner. So my partner and I we were friends. We were two girls that were, I guess you could say, somewhat popular on social media for dressing and putting outfits together. And as I mentioned before, we went to a sorority event. We saw paraphernalia that we weren't impressed with, thought that we could make it a little more trendy and a little more appealing to women in our organization that were in our same age bracket. So yeah, we embarked on creating our own paraphernalia. So paraphernalia, for those who aren't familiar, is sweatshirts, t-shirts, blazers, jackets that come with sorority trademarks on them. So we've kind of taken a different spin and have made it more trendy and use trendy quotes and jargons that people in our age bracket are attracted to. So yes, that's what the Paragirls is.
And what is the meaning behind the phrase Paragirls? How did you come up with that? What does that mean?
Sure. So para obviously is short for paraphernalia. And for us, we wanted to be the para girl. So we wanted to be your one-stop shop for Greek paraphernalia for all organizations. So that was
Got
our
it.
point. Yep. That's why we called ourselves the para girls. Yeah. And we wanted
I like,
to.
I love the play on words too, because it also, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, the way I hear it, it's also like pair of girls too. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah. I never thought of it that way. It's kind of creative.
but the paraphernalia, I didn't put two and two together. The para was paraphernalia. Is that what the lingo is on, when people talk about para?
Depends on where you're from. So on the East Coast, they tend to call it para. Down south, they tend to call it malia. So it goes by a few different phrases, for lack of better terms. But my partner and I initially always referred to it as para.
Got it. Okay, cool. And so I was going to ask first, like, obviously you both were part of this demographic, right? That is to say, you were both in sororities when you were in school, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And so would you say that your, had you already had a following before you started, and then this was a way to kind of monetize the following, or as a result of coming up with your idea, did you then build a following?
No, she and I both had a following prior to launching the company.
Got it.
So we were able to, I guess you in some ways, able to monetize off of that. But I think that the following definitely grew when our target audience, those group of people who didn't know that we existed before became attracted to what we were doing and what we were selling. So I would say that it increased, but we didn't come along with less than 1,000 followers and started this brand, and then it grew. We started off with probably about 20 or 30K.
Got it. And now how does it work with, um, I'm loosely familiar with fraternities and sororities. There's a national chapter, and then each school has its own chapter, if you will. How does it work with the legality? Like, can anyone sell paraphernalia for a specific sorority?
No, yes and no. So it's an entire process. So you need to get a license from each organization in order to be able to use certain trademarks, colors, lingo, language. So it's an entire process. So, I mean, technically, anyone can go out and apply to get a license for any organization to sell paraphernalia. So, yep.
Got it. Now, do you sell specifically to one sorority or to multiple, or?
No, we sell to multiple. So we have more than one license. So we are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So we have a license there. We also have a license with Delta Sigma Theta.
Okay.
So we're in the process of getting licenses for other organizations. So the process is a little different when you are a member. However, seeing as though we have a license for another organization we're obviously not members of, it can be done. It can be a challenging process, but it can be done. So technically anyone can. And there's a lot of people who have tried to embark and start doing the same thing, and they aren't members of those organizations. So
Yeah, I have to imagine it gives you a certain sense of authenticity, right? In terms of, right, you know your customer base, and you're familiar with the language to begin with. So tell me, as someone that's not familiar with this world, can you kind of give me a sense for how big do you see the market for paraphernalia at specific sororities, and how what do you see as your overall market opportunity?
well, it's definitely a niche market. Just when you look at like membership and the people who are allowed to become members of um, prospective organizations every year, it is small, but in the grand scheme of things, it can be a pretty big number. So for example, in my organization, I think the last time I checked in regards to active members, it was about 300,000 members that were currently active. But that goes to say there's tons of other members who are still members of the organization, but just aren't active at the moment for various reasons.
Mhm.
So I would say that it is definitely a niche market, but I think that's what makes it so intriguing. I think people tend to want to buy more or double the quantity because they know that it comes around so few and so far between. But it's definitely a niche market. I used to refer to us as like the Neiman Marcus of apparel. I loved being a niche market. I loved being exclusive, and I still do love coming out with really cool designs and then discontinuing them so that those who have them can have something that's special.
So you don't have like a regular line. You sell in limited releases.
So we do have it. per se like a regular line, but my business partner and I, we try to keep things fresh and new. So if we think that we've seen a lot of it on the market and we have like a better idea, we'll randomly discontinue something and just come out with something fresh and new, so that those who have currently have the items can feel like they have an exclusive piece.
What's the buying pattern like of, so if you think about it, someone joins a sorority, let's say their freshman, sophomore year in college, right?
Mhm.
And then they're part of that sorority, obviously through graduation, but then, presumably have some involvement after college. Um, are the people that buy from you still in college? Are they after college? Is it everything in between? Like who's really
It,
doing the bulk of the buying?
It's everything in between. It's at first, when we first launched, it was the undergrads that were currently in college, but a lot of those students are legacy, so their parents will come on and buy one of everything for them in their place. So I would say we've done a really good job over the past 4 years of kind of growing our market. As I mentioned before, it initially started off with just like a younger crowd, but it's definitely grown a whole lot. So the younger crowd are always the first to buy, but the older crowd, if you will, which I'm getting gearing towards at this point in time in life, they tend to buy in bigger quantities. So we've kind of got all of our groundwork covered now, thankfully.
Got it. And so what does tell me a little bit about your marketing, right? How do you capture their attention and get them to make purchases?
Awesome. So we first started off, our key marketing piece was Instagram. So as I mentioned before, my partner and I, we utilized Instagram just for fun, not to gain anything from a monetary basis. It was literally just for fun. And then I remember when we started, we brainstormed on so many different ways to start marketing the product, from emails to maybe doing advertisements, and you name it, we thought of it and we tried it. And what tends to work from us is just social media. And I think it works for us because we both utilized it initially, and it just seems more authentic. We're not forcing anything on people. This is just honestly what we would wear and how we would wear it. And this is a different way that you can maybe style it up. And I think our audience uh, appreciates that because, again, it's authentic. It's something that we were already doing. So Instagram has changed since then with different algorithms and paid promotions, and which makes things more challenging. But thankfully, we have a core group of supporters and customers that love to tag us and just send our items to other people. So they do the work for us, in lack of better terms. So.
Got it. And so is all of your marketing at this point organic, or do you pay for any of it?
No, it's all organic. We don't pay for anything.
That's awesome. That's really great. So, and for the sake of scope, without getting too much into specifics, how big is your following between the two of you on Instagram?
Probably around like 80K, maybe like 80,000, and then there might be a 10,000 additional followers that just follow our business pages but not our personal pages. So it's
Got
a
it.
pretty
Okay.
market.
Yeah, that's certainly reputable. But it's interesting. It's amazing how it's successful, but it's not like you need millions, right, of followers to
Right.
to build a niche business, because it sounds like, as you said, maybe the market's only about 300,000 potential individuals, but it's a very excited market, it sounds like.
Right. It's a very excited market, and it's a market that tends to buy. So it's interesting. It's very small, but it's a guaranteed market, if that makes sense at all. So it's a small group, but it's a small group of individuals that will purchase these specific items. So yeah.
And so then how, and right now you sell through like a e-commerce website traditionally?
Correct.
Got
Hmm.
it. And what was that process like, setting all that up? Was that easy? Did you have
No, it's a lot of
challenges?
learning different domains, which is the most efficient, what helps us organize and just pack better. Very, very much so trial and error. Right now, we're in a point where we're experimenting with different platforms, such as like Shopify, to see what will be the better option.
Sure.
It's so funny when you start off, I mean, we knew that we would do well, but we didn't know how intricate it would be. Neither one of us ever had an e-commerce website.
Mhm.
So we currently utilize Wix, which is a it's a great platform. It allows you to have really creative websites, but in regards to analytics and orders, it's not very, very helpful. So we've noticed as we've grown that learning about analytics and learning our target market and what sizes they like to wear, and if they like long sleeve shirts more than short sleeves, and what time of the year that they like it. We learned that those things are very, very important. We started off by just a guessing game, like this is what I like to wear this time of year, but it's like that's not what the rest of the population likes to wear.
Got it.
So we've learned throughout the years, just through trial and error, what we need in a website, and we've added additional features to Wix as we saw fit. But we're now experimenting with different websites to see what can help us understand more about our target audience.
Do you do pre-sales, or do you create all the inventory first and then sell it?
We do both. So sometimes we will do a pre-sale to kind of gauge. It's really a lose-lose situation. So we can make everything in advance and it sells out in 2 seconds, and someone says all the mediums were gone. I'm just like, we made a ton of mediums. I don't understand how they're gone. So, and then we'll, have some angry customers or some unhappy ones. So we've tried to do pre-sales, which will allow us to make items in the sizes in which customers need. So we'll try to do that. But the thing about if we do a pre-sale, it takes us a little while to get it out because we need to make it and then ship it to you. So then we have sometimes customers complaining like, I wanted to wear it this Friday. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry, but it's a pre-sale. So we'll mess around with it to see, what works best. So we'll go back and forth. So we might make an item in advance and release it this week. And then next month we might do a pre-sale just to ensure that everyone gets their accurate size. So we go back and forth with it. It's really just, and what I've come to realize is it's just a lose-lose situation. You can never please everyone with it, but we try our best. So we'll flip-flop with it.
And give me a sense, how large are you guys? First off, is who runs the business kind of day to day? Is it the two of you and your partner?
So we split everything 50-50.
Got it. But are there any other employees, contracted employees or anything like that?
Nope. It's just she and I.
So you literally wear every hat: customer service, fulfillment,
packing, lady. Yep. Everything, everything you could possibly imagine.
And on some level, that's got to give you an enormous sense of control, right, over each piece of you know how to do every piece of the process.
Yes.
And I've seen some of your shots on Instagram. I mean, when you show the inventory coming in, it's not insignificant. I mean, can you give our listeners a sense of what you're doing in sales in terms of just the number of orders?
It depends on the item and the time frame. So sometimes we might do an exclusive piece and maybe make a couple of hundred. There are moments where we have something we know it's going to be big, and we know that a big conference is coming up. We'll make a few thousand. So it really just depends on the item.
But I mean, I'm just imagining you with your partner sitting there shipping out 1,000, packing up and individually labeling and sending out thousands of orders. Is that like, what do? Do you just take them into an apartment and work on it all weekend, or how do you?
Yeah. Yep. You bang it out in like a 3-day weekend. Thankfully, I have my mom will help me out sometimes. So I can't call her an employee because she's not on payroll, but she'll help me out a ton. We've made really, really good friends with people at our local post office who are just used to us. They'll open the doors early for us. They'll let us dump packets in. I have my brother has a big pickup truck, so sometimes he'll come and he'll pick up loads and amounts. And like I said, the post office, they know us now, so they'll just open the door early. They'll let us drop it in, and they'll figure it out later. So we've developed relationships with people who have made this process a lot easier for us. But yeah, it's literally just sacrificing your free time, and it's literally it'll take you 72 hours, and you just sit, and you bang it out.
Oh my gosh! And so how many different releases would you have throughout a year?
That's interesting. So it varies. We didn't do as many releases as we would have typically done this year with COVID, and with the amount of events that people would wear the merchandise to. For example, homecoming is a really big season for us, but there was no homecoming this year.
Sure.
So do as many releases as we typically would. So I think it's challenging to say. So for example, with Kamala Harris being inaugurated, we did a new release this year, and that's something we might not have done. So we haven't actually developed like a set number, like every spring we do this many releases, because it kind of just depends on the season and what's going on and what's trendy at the moment. So yeah, there's not a set number, but we like to come out with at least like maybe 3 to 4 new items per year. That's like our threshold.
And that's new items plus then the I don't want to call them old items, but the existing items.
Yes. And we don't like to have a big catalog. So we'll always evaluate like, hey, okay, if we're coming out with something new, how similar does this look to something we've already have? How is that item do it? Do we want to continue it or do we want to retire it, for lack of better terms?
Hey there, I want to take a minute to talk to you about MenuHost.io, a brand new website that offers dynamic QR menus for restaurants or any other venue in the hospitality space. Quickly design and implement safe menus with our library of templates and easy-to-use dashboard. Instantly change specials and pricing anytime without reprinting. Gather important data on customers with MenuHost tracking capability, which can retarget your customers with advertisements through Facebook or Google. So go to MenuHost.io now to register for free and set up your custom menu within minutes. You can even order laminated table cards directly from MenuHost. So if your restaurant, bar, cafe, salon, escape room, or anything else that uses a menu is reopening and wants to do so safely, check out MenuHost.io right now. Hey there, owner-operated listeners. Did you know you can order custom printed products on Amazon? We didn't either until COVID forced us to reinvent ourselves. That's right, the team at ABG Print got crafty and launched a printing store on Amazon. And guess what? It's kind of awesome. Want a custom calendar for 2021? How about floor graphics for your business to execute a safe reopening? Maybe custom printed envelopes or a slick retractable banner for a trade show? Flyers, postcards, wire-bound presentations? ABG Print can do all that and more. We've been around since 1992, always owner-operated, and always focusing on customer service to deliver your business great printed products quickly. Head on over to abgprint.com or check out our store on Amazon at amazon.com/abgprint. Use the promo code 10OWNEROP, that's 10OWNEROP, to get 10% off any custom posters. Need something ASAP or have a confidential printing needs for a deal? We're here to help for all of your printing needs. Just give us a call at 212-398-1010. Okay, now back to the show. So as you grow, what drives the growth? Is it more sorority licenses? Is it more chapters that are aware of you? Is it more products and merchandise?
I think it's a combination of more products and merchandise as well as more awareness. It's so funny. I know that, for example, we went to a conference where we sold our merchandise on the East Coast a few years ago. And it was great because we got to see a lot of the people that supported us, but most of them already had our merchandise. And I mean, it was a good thing and a bad thing. They were like, I'm going to buy it anyway, but I already have this color. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting, which is great to see. And then we went to another conference down south, like maybe 2 years ago, and we realized that we hadn't touched as many people as we would have liked. So we realized that there was a lot more room for us to grow. So I definitely think it's a combination of advancing our customer base and making awareness, and then also being able to expand our current portfolio and selling a variety of merchandise outside of just apparel.
And have you done any, brand ambassador programs or anything at the local chapters?
We had brand ambassadors, I want to say when we first started our business. And it did help to a certain extent, but we didn't see a big return on it. So we'll sporadically do contests where if two friends from different organizations or in the same organization can think of a creative way to wear their apparel, we'll have contests and give things away. So we can kind of, we love getting doing those contests because we love using pictures of our customers instead of just ourselves. So it works out great. But the brand ambassador program, I wouldn't say it was a bad move. It was nice to increase engagement, but it didn't really increase like a return on investment.
Let's talk a little bit. You mentioned that you had, limited sales because of COVID. Overall, other than sort of in a temporary moment where you have, fewer items because of COVID, do you see any other impacts because of COVID, or do you think you'll bounce right back?
It's hard to say. And to be honest, I think that COVID kind of stopped the process in regards to our releases, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to other businesses, I think we did relatively well during COVID. We released the jean jacket and still sold out. And during a period in time where a lot of cities and states were closed down. So I was very confused on where people were wearing this jacket, but I was so excited that they were excited to get it. But it's challenging to say how things will go from this point in time because one of our biggest seasons is homecoming season. And I don't know if homecoming seasons will ever go back to being the same. Nevertheless, I think that different chapters and different organizations as a whole are becoming very creative in ways to still create a sense of community. So whether that be virtually or not. So we'll see how things are going, but we're still in a very good place. I'm super duper proud and super duper grateful, but it's really hard to see what that impact will be, this time next year, because it's just uncertain.
So, as someone that operates the business day to day,
Mhm.
but also has a extraordinarily busy full-time career, right? What kind of time are you able to devote to your business?
Well, like I said, I'm so grateful that we started this business 3 years before I started my big girl job and after graduate school, because it's really, really a well-oiled machine. It does take time. I'd say it takes a lot of like my personal time. So the huge sacrifice is just me having a personal life. So instead of
Mhm.
maybe hanging out with friends, I'll dedicate that time to like brainstorming on a new item that we want to release. Instead of maybe I might have to miss someone's birthday because I have to pack all that weekend, or a trip with friends to pack. So it's more so a sacrifice to my personal life. It doesn't necessarily impact my other career, my other job
Sure.
at all, which is a really good thing. But again, I think that's because we already set the groundwork before I started that job. But it is, like I mentioned, it's a huge sacrifice. I sometimes have no personal life. In the summer, it's different. That's our downtime. So it's not
Mhm.
as busy. So it's completely fine. But during the months of, I would say, maybe August to March, it's like say goodbye to your personal life. So I guess you could say that's our busy season.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I would be remiss not to touch on we've seen an enormous amount of interest in social movements this past year, to put it mildly.
Hmm.
There's been a lot of focus on female owners, particularly Black female owners, as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. Um, does that add pressure to you? Can you talk a little bit about, it's hard enough to be a business owner, and then let alone have, an additional social movement, um, attached to your work. Do you feel it's attached to your work? And, do you have what are your thoughts on that?
I do feel that it's attached. It didn't add an immense amount of pressure. I think for me personally, it made me just want to do more.
Hmm.
And I think my partner and I, we decided to flip it and make it a positive. So, with everything that was going on and it just being emotionally exhausting for a large group of people, we decided to take the bad and turn it into something good. So we donated $5,000 to various people, black women specifically, that were affected by the pandemic, who may have lost their jobs as a result of it, or who just were struggling. Or I actually knew personally of a few individuals who actually had to leave their jobs as a result of everything that was going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. They were just affected, and the fact that their job didn't make note of it or didn't check in to see how they were going, they couldn't take it anymore. So for us, we turned a negative into a positive and decided to give back, and just took it as a moment to sit back and reflect and think about how fortunate we are, how far we've come, and I think it was also helped us realize how far we still have to go. So.
Right. Totally makes sense. And so, in terms of what you saw on social, as someone that manages a brand, and that's as you said, 100% of your marketing is this organic, um, you know, are organic posts, and most of your channels, you said Instagram, right? Or
Mhm.
do you use any other channels like
uh,
Facebook or?
we utilize Facebook. I mean, we did at one point in time, but our target audience just doesn't really utilize Facebook or Twitter. So no, our main squeeze, for lack of better terms, is Instagram.
Got it. And so, and during that time, do you get nervous right before you make a post, or you say something, and we certainly live in a world where, if you're misinterpreted, or you say something as a business owner, right? It especially when you have one channel, and
Mhm.
it all relies on organic posting. Does that make you nervous when you make a post?
Yes and no. So it would make it makes me nervous from when posts are made on our business page. So my partner and I typically have a conversation with one another before we post something on our personal page.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we always attempt to remove our personal feelings and just keep it more general and care and focus more on our audience instead of ourselves. Now, what
Sure.
she posts on our personal pages is completely up to us. Nevertheless, I think we're still cognizant when we post on our personal pages that we own a business, and a lot of the followers from our business page are also on our personal pages. So it is challenging. And I would say this from a perspective of not just owning a business, it's from the perspective of having a full-time job in corporate America. Like, I would like to voice my opinion about something, but what if my colleagues are following me on social media? And even though my intent is never bad, what if they interpret it wrong? So it is challenging. It's really hard. And there were a couple of times I utilize social media a lot, but there were a couple of days that during, for example, the protest, that I opted to just not get on my personal page at all because I just didn't want to see certain things and didn't really feel comfortable engaging. So it's definitely challenging.
Got it. I mean, I know I certainly felt that way, in terms of just wanting to keep my mouth shut and listen. But, um, it, on some level, um, I, I did have these moments where I couldn't wrap my brain around, am I supposed to say something because it's what I really believe? Or am I just supposed to keep my mouth shut, because there's a lot of voices going on right now, and it doesn't help. Um, and I really struggled with it. We, on our side, in our small way, we were able to contribute to a couple of organizations that we thought were doing really good stuff, but we didn't even post about it. We just helped them,
Mhm.
right? And it was one of those scenarios where, if they needed signage or they needed pamphlets, because we're a printing company, so that's really what we could offer them. But I just found it to be a struggle. The other question related to this I had is, a lot of your customers, I I suspect, I don't know, but I would imagine a lot of your customers look up to you, right? In the sense that you have, they're also, you know, young women in a sorority on their way up. You have a career, you own your own business, and they're buying merchandise from you. Um, do you see yourself in that role as emblematic of kind of what they hope to become? Is that part of your brand? Um, what do you think about that?
I think that it is definitely evolved into that. It's so funny. Initially, I always thought like it would be pretty cool to do, but it puts a lot of pressure on you to be a role model, for lack of better terms. Nevertheless, just thinking about my own experiences growing up, and while there were some people sporadically that I looked up to here and there wasn't a single person that I had.
Mm.
So I
Sure.
like the idea of being that for another person, and being able to provide guidance, or just showing people that certain things are possible, that you can do both. You can have a really great job in corporate America, and you can also have like a side hustle, for lack of better terms. Like, it's possible to have both. Um,
We still need to come up with a better word. I think if
I
there's one thing that comes
know
out of it,
good.
yeah.
It's not
Uh,
good.
we'll think of it as we go along here. But sorry, keep going.
Not side hustle, a hustle, for lack of better terms. Or
Mm.
I think it's more so something about like maybe pursuing your passions. Because for me, while I love what I do in my 9 to 5, my business helps me kind of tap into my true passion. So
Mhm.
we'll have to think of something more creative. But sorry, getting back to what you initially asked, I like that idea, but it does put a lot of pressure on me. For example, as I mentioned, if I wanted to voice my opinion about something in regards to the protests or things that were just going on in America at that point in time, I always have to think twice, because someone else might be looking up to me, and I wouldn't want them to repeat that in the at the wrong audience or at work, or you're just completely unsure. So it puts a lot of pressure on me. But all in all, the pros outweigh the cons.
And as you were starting your business, and what were the types of people or other businesses you looked to try to emulate to do the same?
Uh, I think for me, when I think back on it, who was I inspired by? Uh, Kana Walker. So she's the owner of House of CB. So House of Celeb Weeks, they sell dresses. And it's so funny. I remember coming across our website maybe like 10 years ago when I was looking for a dress for my birthday. I wanted an Hervé Leger dress. The Hervé Leger was too expensive for me at that point in time. And she had like knockoffs. And I was like, I don't want to buy a knockoff, but this is a cool idea. Like she kind of made like a knockoff website. And she's super young. I think she's a few years younger than me. And just to see how she's kind of transformed and like grew her brand. And I remember seeing post a picture on social media. I think it was around Christmas. She had a really big sale and she was sitting in front of all of these FedEx boxes. And I was like, wow, like I wonder if the pair of girls will ever get there. And I remember saving it and actually like saving it in my phone and like saving it into my favorites. And I was like, this is where I hope to be. And so interesting because in 2 years, like I was able to redo the entire picture with my own merchandise. So she's one of a few, but there are definitely a few other women on social media who I've watched just blossom, go from selling maybe 5 or 6 items to blossom to being $1 million companies. So I'm constantly inspired by them every day to keep going when we might get nasty comments from customers. I might have like a mess up in our warehouse and just with processing. So it does get hard. Like, is it worth it? Should we keep going? But then I watch them and I'm just inspired to keep going. So yes, there's quite a few people that I look up to.
So it's like, how does the merchandise arrive? Does it come on like a big truck, or how, like the first time you saw it all in one room and it like, the first time it became real, how did you feel?
The first time I saw it all in one room, it was in one box because it was so small. Because it was like 50 sweatshirts. So
right.
wasn't a lot to look at. But I remember like maybe not this Christmas. I mean, we had a good sale this Christmas, but like last Christmas, well, no, maybe this year. It's been a couple of instances where I'm just had to pinch myself like, wow, we've come so far. I think when we were finally completed our jackets and we make everything from scratch. So it's like, sometimes you see things in small increments. You don't see the big picture. But we were a little late. We weren't able to get a U-Haul in time to kind of move the items. And I got to actually see what it looked like instead of piece by piece all up front. And it was just like, wow, we made all of this. Wow, we sold all of this. Like, wow. You went from having one box to having 45 boxes and they're all sold out. So, and they sold out in like
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great
Sorry,
feeling.
we had a bad connection there. You sold them out how fast?
An hour.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so when you sell things out in an hour, I imagine you feel two ways, right? On one hand, it's amazingly exciting. On the other hand, probably should have ordered more.
Probably should have made more. Definitely got to make more. So like I said, it's trial and error. So we increase with every step we go forward. So we're always like, we got to do bigger, we got to do better. So it's literally just trial and error, but our customers just never cease to amaze us. Like, we make a decent amount and we're always shocked and blown away that it'll sell out, even if it's a day, even if it's 2 days. I mean, I remember where it took us a month to sell out of something. So
Forgive me. You've been doing this for how many years so far?
4 years.
4 years is what I thought. Okay. Have you made any big mistakes along the way?
A ton of them. A ton. A ton. Ordered the wrong color, ordered the wrong size, made it in a kid size, didn't realize till I opened it up. Yeah, a ton. Shipped to the wrong address, a ton, you name it, like a ton.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm just thinking back on and just how much money it cost. But yeah, a ton.
And what do you have any stories about how you got through one of the bigger challenges?
I say the biggest takeaway is just for me has always been to slow down. Like, I feel like most of my mistakes are made from me rushing and trying to do 50 million things at once and trying to like push for us to get done this at this release date and trying to rush to have it done by tonight. And it's just like, it can wait until tomorrow. It's better to wait an extra day and get it done right than to rush and mess up and cost yourself thousands of dollars. So I think the biggest key takeaway is just to take your time. Take your time.
And what's the process like designing and making the paraphernalia? It sounds like, because you handle all the pieces of it, it sounds like you guys design it, you work with manufacturers, I assume they're overseas.
So no, we manufacture everything in-house. So we have everything is all ours. So everything is done in-house. So when I
Okay.
say we order the wrong colors, it might be like the wrong color thread or something. Like I messed up, now we're stuck with all the wrong color. But we manufacture everything in-house. My partner and I will typically set up meetings just to brainstorm, and we'll say, hey, we want to come up with something new. So in 2 weeks, let's set up time to talk about what we want to do that's new. I don't know, we know we want to do something neon, so let's try to be creative. So we'll come in with different ideas. We'll then hire a graphic designer to kind of bring our idea to life. We'll look at the dimensions and we'll think about how realistic it can be. And then we'll go to work in regards to creating a sample. Depending on how confident we are in it, we might share it with our audience to see how they're liking it and how they're taking to it before we go into production.
And is production overseas?
No, production's in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. So it's all entirely made in USA as well. That's awesome. How do you actually make the clothing? Because this sounds unique.
It's a pretty tricky process. To get into the details, I might be giving away the nitty gritty of it. But we use chenille patches. We design them. We create the chenille patches. We do the one thing that we don't make in house is the sweatshirts, but everything else is created inside. And then we purchase the machines. And you put in a sew disc file and you put the patch on the sweatshirt and it kind of sews it for you. So.
Got it. Okay. Wow. So you are really here. I thought you were handling the marketing, the fulfillment, but I thought that you also had, a contract manufacturer. You're designing the clothing. I thought you had a contract manufacturer overseas or something. You are literally start to finish taking on every role of this company with your partner. That's insane.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this is amazing. I misunderstood. So, literally every aspect of the company is handled by you and your partner.
Yep.
That's incredible. And as you grow, do you think that you will leverage help in some, whether it's help with graphic design, whether it's help with production, whether it's help with marketing, fulfillment, is there an area that you think you'll need to?
Yes. Definitely. I think we definitely need help in regards to assistance with fulfillment. With graphic design, we don't do that ourselves. Like I said, we hire a graphic designer to kind of bring the ideas to life. That varies. We'll sometimes put out a post if we want someone to do it immediately. Hey, anyone want to do it by end of day? But I think just all across the board, I think as we begin to grow, we'll become less hands-on. I think up until this day, we both view it as our baby, for lack of better terms. So it's just so hard to let go when you're so used to doing everything yourself. But I think the ultimate goal is for both of us to kind of be less hands-on and to let others come in and help and bring their own expertise, their own creative ideas so that we can continue to grow and expand.
That's awesome. And and then looking forward to the growth side, what are your plans? What are your plans on that front?
In regards to growth, creating new innovative products. So we want to do something outside of just apparel. So we've been kind of thinking about and brainstorming about what else we can do that's creative, that's actually useful, and that we would actually utilize. We have a rule of thumb: we don't produce anything that we don't love and wouldn't wear ourselves. So, so the same thing will go with other merchandise. We don't want to create anything that we wouldn't utilize on a daily basis. So, just thinking about something that we can continue to use. It becomes a little tricky during COVID when now that everyone's wearing a mask or, can't be within 6 feet of each other. We definitely have to put on our creative caps and really think outside the box. So I think it's definitely our goal in regards to growth is growing our clientele and our portfolio. So definitely want to start adding more products outside of just apparel.
And then to your point, as you grow, so it would be other types of paraphernalia that are of interest to sororities. And do you sell do you do any to fraternities as well?
For a short period of time, we did some items for fraternities, and we plan to bring that back shortly. But at that point in time, we decided that it was too much for us to focus on both the female and male population, and we weren't as experienced with the male population, so we decided to focus on the female population first.
Got it.
So focusing on members of sororities that are part of the Divine Nine. So historically Black sororities and fraternities. So right now we're focusing on the sororities.
Got it. And you, okay, I understand. That's awesome. Well, best of luck to
Yeah.
you. This is really great. I'm inspired by the growth that you've had and the fact that you're able to manage this business, almost every piece of it, by with yourself and your partner, as well as having a full-time career at a large company in Seattle. That's really awesome. And so best of luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. We on this show, we love to, every one of our guests is an owner operator, and you, along with all the others here in our first season, are just terrific examples of what you can do with hard work and a little inspiration.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jesse. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. Okay, so thank you for listening, and thank you, Diamond Dyer, for coming on the show. We're excited to be bringing you another episode next week, so please don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend. If you know anyone who you think should be on Owner Operated, reach out to us. And thank you for listening.